everyone, it's Allie and welcome to Cozies and Classics. So I've done a lot of thinking over the last few months and I've decided to kind of rebrand this channel. Originally I had wanted to do kind of more ASMR, super relaxing, cozy content, and maybe I will do a little bit of that, but I think at least for now I just personally feel a little awkward like doing ASMR type videos, but if you guys are interested, I can do some soft readings in the future. But I would like this channel to just kind of be more about books, and I will be doing book reviews, going to different book events, stuff like that. So it'll be kind of a mix of vlogs as well as just sit down videos like this talking about books. And this year I really gave myself a big challenge. I'm realizing bigger challenge than I thought it would be, to read 100 books. And I'm really behind. I think I've only read 13 so far, so I am about 13 books behind. But I still am going to try to meet that 100 book goal. But I thought it could be kind of fun to kind of like do a review every 10 books and let you know what I rated each book, which ones I would recommend. So I do have my first 10 books here. They're falling all over the place, so I'll put them on the floor. And I thought how I would do it, instead of reviewing them in the order that I actually read them, I will review them from lowest score to highest score in my opinion. So I will say before I even get into this, I have noticed such a difference in my mental state, my emotional state, everything, since I've really committed to reading more. I spend less time on social media, less time watching YouTube, Netflix, that kind of thing, and I just feel great. So I really encourage you to read more if you're able to. Maybe swap out a less good habit for reading. Just kind of take a break from the world. I have really noticed a difference in how I feel this year compared to last year, just because of the way I'm spending my free time. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get into the books. So just kind of background of what I like. I definitely prefer fiction over nonfiction. I am starting to read more like in my morning routine, doing some self-help nonfiction books there. So this batch of books I don't believe has any nonfiction in it, but in the future I will have some. But I really just like to read novels in general. I like historical fiction especially. I like books where like part of the story is taking place in present day and then maybe another part is the past. I think those are probably my favorite kind of books overall, but I do read kind of a wide variety. And what I do, actually, I go to Goodwill every week and I pick up like 2 paperbacks. And I kind of like to do that because I don't really read the backs or anything. I just look for something that looks interesting to me. And I found some really cool authors and great stories along the way. So with that being said, some of these are like quite random and I might not have sought them out if I hadn't found them at Goodwill. I also will say that I tend to rate books a little bit generously. I know some people are a little harsh. They give a lot of 1 and 2 stars out. I probably will never really give anyone less than a 3-star, because even if I don't really like it, I know it probably does appeal to someone. I do only have 1 3-star review for this round, and all the rest are either 4 or 5-star. So my 3-star for this batch was Goodbye Jimmy Choo, which is by Annie Sanders. It's a total chick lit kind of book. This just really isn't my genre. I don't really like chick lit that much. But I was reading a lot of other reviews from people that did like chick lit, just to kind of see if I was being a little bit too critical with a 3-star. And a lot of people did give this book like 2 stars or 1 star, so I can safely say that I would not really recommend it. It was an okay story. There wasn't really a lot going on, which I think is kind of normal for chick lit, but it was just a little bit too long. Like, as you can see, it's a pretty thick book. It wasn't very short. It's 400 pages, and I felt like it probably could have been about 200 pages, honestly. So yeah, this was my lowest one. The only one I probably would not recommend at all. Now we've got a solid amount of 4 stars. First up being Bookstore on the Beach. And honestly, if I could go back and rate this, I probably would rate this a 3 as well. It was pretty well written, but I felt like there was so much going on in this story. But if you're looking for a little bit of a lighthearted beach read kind of thing, I think that this does the job. It's by Brenda Novak, again, The Bookstore on the Beach. I do for sure like this more than the last one. So maybe let's say like 3.5 out of 4. But I think that in contrast to the last one, there was like so much going on that it could have actually been 2 or 3 books with the same characters, like a series. It's kind of like every possible thing that could go wrong went wrong in this book. So let me know what you think if you did read it, but I thought it was okay. This book, How the Penguin Saved Veronica by Hazel, I also gave 4 stars. I thought it was very, very cute, would definitely recommend, just not something that is going to like necessarily stay with me all that much, and I probably will never read it again. But it's a very quirky story, very different from really anything I had read. I thought it was very unique. It follows a kind of cantankerous 85-year-old woman and her nephew who she didn't even know existed. And there's penguins in it, and there's some adventure and a very nice ending. So I think that this is a very cute story. I believe that there was a second one written. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to look more into it. But if I ever do come across it, or if I go to the library anytime soon, I probably will look for the sequel if it's out there. So I would recommend this, very cute. Next we've got Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, and I'm probably the last person on planet Earth to read this book. I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding this book, and I don't know, at least for me when it comes to reading, I don't really get that hung up on stuff like that, even if I don't agree with the message necessarily. I think that this was pretty well written. It was a decent read, but with that being said, I know that there is at least 2 other books that are with the same people, kind of same universe, and I really have no interest in reading the other ones. So even though I did read it pretty quickly, I was interested in it the whole time, I thought it was well written, I really don't have that desire to read the other ones, but I probably will look up more from this author just to kind of see what else she has out there. Now we have I Am the Messenger by Markus. Zusak? Not really sure how you say his name. I really love this author a lot. One of my favorite books of all time is The Book Thief, which he wrote. Yeah, definitely top 10, I would say. And this book was really good, and maybe even in another world where this was written by a different author, I would give it 5 stars. But just because I'm comparing this directly to The Book Thief, I did like that one more, so that was why I gave this 4 stars. But 100% I liked it a lot. Kind of a story about a guy who is trying to just find his way in life. He's a young adult, and he's given all these different tasks by a mysterious person, a mysterious entity, and with each thing that he completes, he kind of learns more about himself, about life, about his community. Just all in all, a great read. I would highly recommend. I read everything by this author. I think he's amazing. And this was actually the second time I read this. This is the only reread of this entire bunch, but I hadn't read this since like high school, and I don't think I appreciated it as much then, so I am really glad that I read it, and I will keep it in my collection. As you can see, I've had it for a while. It's been around the block. All right, so this is actually a collection of 3 books by this author. This collection is from Daphne du Maurier. Again, sorry if I'm like totally butchering these, but I picked this up in a house that I stayed at for a long weekend a couple months ago, and they kind of had a grab a book, leave a book policy. So I grabbed this, and it is really beautiful actually when you take the cover off of it. So when I'm finished reading all 3 of these books, I am gonna display it on my shelf. I think it'll look really nice. But the book that I read first that I'll talk about today is Rebecca, and I'm sure you guys have heard of Rebecca if you've not read it or seen the movie. It is kind of a story that it does have some romance in it, but I was reading about this author and she really didn't like her stories described as romances at all. She was very kind of gothic, a little bit atypical for her time of the 30s and 40s. Just a really interesting woman, I think. She probably had a really big personality, and I really did like Rebecca. I gave it 4 stars just because I really only give 5 stars to things that I think are really perfect, things that I do think I would read time and time again. I do think I would read Rebecca again in the future, and I did watch the movie, the latest movie that came out just a couple years ago after I read it, and I thought the movie was really good too. But for me, the beginning was a little bit slow, so I think if it would have picked up a little bit faster at the beginning, it would have at least got the 4.5 stars from me. But I would highly recommend, and I won't talk about it today, but I did actually just finish another book, in this section that I may have liked even more, so I'll talk about that in the next batch of 10 books. But would definitely recommend this author, would recommend Rebecca. Okay, and then I've got 4 5-star books that I enjoyed so much. I thought they were basically perfect, and I don't know if I can pick a favorite out of the 4 that are left. I don't know, I will try, but they are all really, really good. So I've actually got 2 from the same author. This one I found at Goodwill, and it is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, and it was amazing. It's truly like a work of art. This book follows a few different characters during wartime, and I just absolutely love it. I don't know what it says about me, but I really love books set during wars. I don't know why. But as soon as I finished this book, I of course looked the author up and saw that he had another book that just came out called Cloud Cuckoo Land. And I really, really try hard not to like buy books at Barnes & Noble, buy books for full price right when they come out, but I could not wait to get my hands on this, so I did pay for the hardback. And I will say, even though I did give this 5 stars as well, I definitely did like All the Light We Cannot See a little bit more. I wouldn't say at all that this was written better or anything like that. I just personally like this story more. This is a really epic story that follows people from all different time periods and shows how they're connected, and it's amazing. I will definitely reread this, but yeah, I just personally like the story a little bit more, but would definitely recommend getting this, especially if you can get it for a little bit cheaper now than the main bookstore prices. I also gave 5 stars to Mitch Albom's The Magic Strings of Frankie Presto. So this author I'm sure you've heard of from his book Tuesdays with Maurier, and I do like that book a lot as well. That probably gets like a 4 star from me. I personally like this book better. I think it's an incredible story. I would kind of describe this as like a Forrest Gump type story, except with musicians. So the main character, you're following him throughout his whole life, and this is a fictional story. There's like a magical element, as you can kind of guess from the Magic Strings title. But he interacts throughout his life with real life people, and I just think it's a really, really great story. It's one that I would probably like read to my kids one day. Just all in all, a delight to read. I really enjoyed this. So maybe this was my favorite of the whole bunch. Maybe. Also was so good. The 4 of these, so good. This is called The Wild Girl by Kate Forsyth. Just another random Goodwill pickup. I was like, title looks interesting enough to me, I guess. And I just really thought that this was so good. I will say the beginning was a little bit of a slow start. Like it probably actually took me about 3 or 4 days to really get into the meat and bones of this book. But as soon as I actually gave it my attention, I was totally hooked. I thought it was amazing. This is a historical fiction book based on the Grimm brothers, but not directly centered on them, actually more the eventual wife of one of the Grimm brothers. And it's just such an interesting story. I learned a lot about the time period where they lived and how the Grimm brothers found their stories and wrote their stories and everything. So I would absolutely recommend, if you are at all interested in historical fiction, the Grimm brothers, fairy tales, anything like that, definitely pick this up. I love this. Well guys, that was my review of the first 10 books of the year. Hopefully I can pick up my pace a little bit more and I will be able to put another round of 10 books out soon. Like I said, I'm only about 13 books into my 100 book goal for the year, but I'm loving reading so much. And for sure, drop any recommendations that you have. I do have a library card, so I will definitely hit up my library more in the future. And let me know if you like this style of video, if you want to know any more information in the future, anything like that. I would love your feedback. But if you did like the video, I would appreciate if you'd give me a big thumbs up and subscribe. It will help my little channel grow. But thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.